simple rules for right living. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 12 through 20, the Apostle Paul writes, all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be enslaved by anything. Food is meant for the stomach, and the stomach for food, and God will destroy both, one and the other. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God raised the Lord, and will also raise us up by his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them members of a prostitute? Never. Or do you not know that he who is joined to a prostitute becomes one body with her? For as it is written, the two shall become one flesh. But he who is joined to the Lord becomes one spirit with him. Flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. This is Paul writing to the church at Corinth, so automatically we know this isn't a message that was out there for the outside world. This was a message that was for the church. And the church at Corinth had a lot of problems. Mostly they were Gentiles, and they had to subscribe to a really good regimen of self-control. I'll put it that way. They had no qualms about sexual immorality. It was all around them. They really thought nothing of it, and they thought that, I'm sure they thought to a degree that their relationship to Jesus Christ just allowed them to do anything that they wanted them to do. So they had to be reminded that their new birth required a new life for them to live. Now, 5 simple rules for living, a lesson that just teaches us some very simple things about the world around us, but how we should act in the world around us. And we need it because we see so many contradictions in the world around us. A man tells a story one time about boarding an airplane, and he gets set in his seat, and he observes a woman also boarding the airplane. She's a rather plump lady, to put it mildly, okay? And she comes down the aisle. She's struggling to get down the aisle. She struggles to get into the airplane seat. And she gets situated in the seat, and then she pulls out a big 1-pound bag of M&M peanuts and sits back to eat while she reads a book on the airplane. The book was the latest diet for losing weight. How do you see, that's kind of like a contradiction in terms. And regardless of how much information that we take in on any given subject, if we're just taking in information and we're not applying the information to our lives, then we're going to have troubles. And I think that was what was wrong with the church at Corinth. They not only had the information, they were taking information in, but they weren't processing that information in a way that it made a difference in their lives. And so therefore, not making a difference in their spiritual lives, I'll put it that way, it was making a difference in how the community was looking at them. It was making a difference in how God was looking at them. You know, there are a lot of books available today to tell us the various theories of how we can be better people. But there's not a book on the market that can teach us how to be better people that can compete with the Bible. Because it's going to tell us how to be the people that God designed us to be. What God wants us to be, desires us to be, the people that we need to be so that we can live a right life here and then continue to live with God through eternity. Because if we don't get it right here, we're not going to be right for eternity. It's going to be a terrible situation for us. So the program, I guess we call the program today the best program for success. It's been around for centuries, and it has been proven to work in all ages, in all cultures, with any type of individual. The Bible will never be out of date. It'll never be proven wrong in any culture. Okay? People may not like it, but it's proven to be the best. So let's consider 5 simple rules for living. And I hope that you agree with me as we see what the Apostle Paul had to say. Number 1, learn to stay in control of your life. Learn to stay in control of your life. Wait a minute, I thought God has to be in control. Well, yes, God is in control in the sense that when you go out here on the highway, right, and you're driving, who's in control of that vehicle? You are. But wait a minute. The state of Texas tells you how you need to operate that vehicle on the highways, right? So who's in control? Well, I'm in control, but the state of Texas is telling me how to be in control. Well, that's the way it is with our lives. We're in control, but God has told us how to be in control. And on the flip side, the devil's told us how to be in control. We've got to determine who we want to be, whose control we want to be under. But we've got to be in control. We've got to make that decision, and then we've got to work under those principles that we find that are going to be the best principles for us. This includes avoiding addictions to substances, taking the body, the appetites arising within it, whatever that is. And Paul talks about sexual appetites later on down in the passage, doesn't it? Yeah, even those have to be dealt with in the right way. Many great men have been destroyed because a weakness in the flesh has gained mastery over them. Yeah. What was it? I don't know. I don't really like drawn white. How many of you heard of drawn white? Okay, fridge. Yeah, it can be pretty gross in some of his stuff. One of these routines that he does, you know, he gets arrested and he says, yeah, I had the right to remain silent. I just couldn't do it, you know. Yeah. All right. You gotta keep in control. You just get yourself into more and more trouble. You can't let the flesh have mastery over us. The things of the flesh, we've got to keep control. Romans 6:12. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body to make you obey its passions. The passions, yeah. We talked about emotions in Bible class. And we've got emotions. We've got chemical things going on in our bodies all the time. But we can't let those things control us. We've got to control them. And again, we talk about anger. Every healthy body gets angry. But unless we control that anger, it's going to be a problem for us in life. So we've got to learn to control it. It also includes resisting pressures from outside influences that push us to go in wrong directions. We tell our children that all the time, don't we? Just don't follow the crowd. Don't let your buddies push you into doing something that you know is going to be wrong. See, that's what the world does to us. And it does it with so many pieces of information, there are so many influencers out there trying to get us to do the wrong things. So John says, 1 John 2:15-16, do not love the world. If you don't love the world, you won't want to do what the world says. You won't want to please the world. You know, sometimes that's what the problem is. We want to please the world, and if we try to please the world, we're not going to please God. So do not love the world or things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, all that is in the world. So this defines what the Apostle John is talking about, okay? The desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride in possessions. Oh, he's not talking about my children? No. I'm not talking about children there. He's not talking about my house? Well, no, not unless your house becomes your pride, you know, things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? He defines what he's talking about when he says the world. Don't love the world. Don't love desires of the flesh, desires of the eyes, and pride and possessions. That's worldly stuff. These things are not from the Father. Those things are from the world. So remember to read the whole thing and pull it out and say, oh, what's he talking about when he says don't love the world? There's exactly what he's talking about. Now, if we can avoid those things, we have a lot better chance of staying in control of our lives. Secondly, avoid unnecessary contact with temptation. Not unnecessary contact with the world, because what we have to do, we have to be taken out of the world then, right? Jesus prayed, oh, Father, don't take them out of the world, but keep them, keep the world or keep the evil one from them. But unnecessary contact with temptation, right? 1 Corinthians 6:18, flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body. So the challenge in this text is to get away from it, right? Now, the perfect example of it, of course, in the Old Testament is Joseph, right? Joseph, when he was a slave in Potiphar's house, Potiphar's wife starts making advances toward him. If you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to tell my husband you're doing this, you're doing that, whatever. He runs. He gets in trouble. He gets sent to prison. She lies about him. But he didn't do anything wrong. He did not sin in what he did. So certain circumstances, the challenge is to get away. The challenge is to get away. The challenge is to stay away. Got a problem with something? Don't go where that problem exists. Stay away from it. Got a gambling addiction? Don't go to Las Vegas. Just stay away. Don't go to the gambling houses. You got other problems? Stay away from those places. So certain companions and places and circumstances put people under greater influence to do wrong. 1 Corinthians 15:33, do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Bad company ruins good morals. And you don't have to run dogs to get fleas, but just merely lie down with them. Hang around with them for a while. You can get fleas in a hurry. So the wise thing to do is avoid even being in such situations whenever possible. Now, the great difference between Peter and John on the night that Jesus was betrayed had its roots in the company that they kept. Where was Peter? Peter was by the campfire with the people who were yelling, "Crucify Jesus." Where was John? He walked right up into the house where Jesus was being judged. He didn't care if they arrested him. You know, quite a decision after running away at first. But there's Peter. What company were they keeping? We have to make hard decisions sometimes. But the better decision is to walk away from the temptation, go where we're going to find help and support to keep us away from sin. Number 3, make decisions with care. Make decisions with care. And it's kind of like the Jeremiah 6:16, stand at the crossroads and look. Make sure that you see where each of the roads are going to. Not just look at the short term. That's one of the things that really bothers me about where I work. Because so much is done out of expediency. And I've seen it happen before. When I worked at the coal mine back in Ohio, the main offices were in Cleveland, Ohio, and a bank really owned the coal, or an electric illuminating, Cleveland Electric Illuminating owned the coal. We just mined it. Okay? So whenever somebody would come to visit, the big shots would come to visit, there were times when they would clean out the storage areas, supply rooms and everything, go out and dig a big hole and bury it, cover it up. Why? We're getting company. We need more stuff. We need more stuff. That seems a little bit unethical. Well, what I talk about with expediency is, we'll do something just for the very short term that'll cost a whole lot more money in the long term, or cause a whole lot more work in the long term. Well, just do this for now. Let's just hurry up and get this done, but it's going to cause this problem down the road. But just get it done. And sometimes that's the way we go through life. I got to make this decision. Well, if I do this and or do this, we'll just do it, get it over with. And then we get into this boatload of trouble where if we had just made the other decision, maybe it would have been a little tougher on us, but we wouldn't have the complications that we did. And, I talked about the guy who, I sent that package on down to here. Then, less than 5 minutes later, I never saw that. Wait a minute, it can't be both. What's going on here? Determine whether or not a choice would be sinful in God's sight. If so, the matter should be settled. Still be harmful. They can be hurtful. So, the number one thing, is that sinful? How does God look at it? 1 John 3:4. Sin is transgression of God's law. If God says something is a sin, I need to stay away from it. If I say, I need to tell this little white lie to get out of this bad problem, I'm just going to get into a deeper problem. Because what happens if you tell a lie to get out? Tell a little white lie to get out of a problem? You're probably going to have to tell a bigger lie to get out of that. Eventually, you're going to have to tell the truth, and it just keeps adding up with the lies. And, it can get very burdensome. It's imperative that we come to know the law so that we can avoid evil and do good. However, even if there appears to be no divine law against it, and many times that's it, you still need to decide if it's practical and sensible to make that particular decision. Because we can hurt others. It may not be sinful, but we might hurt somebody. We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to hurt ourselves, but we don't want to hurt somebody else. So we've got to be practical, we've got to be sensible. And that's what Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18. Now, this is talking about the ways of Israel. Of course, they weren't following God's will. They were doing some things that were awful. But God says to them, come now, let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they shall become wool. We can correct mistakes. We can even be forgiven of sins. But we've got to be reasonable about it. We just can't go out doing stuff and saying, oh, well, and like the 19th century rationalists who said, oh, God forgives. Let's give God something to forgive about. You know, the 19th century rationalists were no different than what Paul was talking about. Romans chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Oh, grace is there because of sin. Let's sin more so we'll have more grace. God forbid. Reasonable about it. We need to be willing to spend time and study to take the commandments of God as given us and then extend those out into the various areas of life that come to us. Could you imagine a book that told us everything about every situation in life, gave us just everything? What do they call those? There are, like a mechanic's worksheet.
Manual?
Yeah, but it's a manual, but it's like, all right, you're checking things out, and if you test this, you get a yes and a no, you know.
Flow chart.
Well, it acts like a flow chart, but all right, you know, is there gas in the tank? No. Put gas in the tank. Yes, there's gas in the tank. Does the spark plug, you know, is there spark to the spark plug? Yes, you know, or no, there's no spark. You know, change the spark plug. You know, yes, there's spark in the plug. Is there compression? It's like that. It's like you go down through checking these things. Can you imagine if the Bible just, how big it would have to be if it told you everything? But it's not like that. It tells us the things that are wrong, and sometimes it's in general terms, and it leaves it to us with reasonable minds and reasonable intelligence to figure out the rest of what is right and wrong. To the point where we don't have any excuse because God has directed it. So we have to make decisions. We should make correct decisions, but we can't blame God. You know, it's not God's fault if we make wrong decisions. So make decisions with care. It never hurts to think about something, right? Never hurts. Now, number 4, view your body as God's temple. And if you view your body as God's temple, you're not going to fill it up with
simple thing.
trash.
Junk.
Trash. One man's junk is another man's treasure. Okay? But, yeah, you're not going to fill it up with trash. 1 Corinthians 6:19, do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit in you whom you have from God? You are not your own. Wait a minute, you told me I'm in control. Yeah, you're in control, but there's an authority over you. You have to be within that authority. But you make the decisions. You've got to be under that authority. You make those decisions within that authority. So take care of your body physically and spiritually. Don't destroy it by foolish living. Don't defile it with immoral sexual activities or other ungodly actions. And Paul's talking about sexual activities because that's the big problem that they had at Corinth. Do not use it to worship and serve, do use it to worship and serve God to the best of your ability. That's what God designed your bodies for, our bodies for, right? Yeah. Okay. Number 5. Remember the key question. Will my choice glorify God? Well, who else is it going to glorify? Maybe my choice was to glorify me. That's not a good choice. A good life is not lived selfish. It's lived to please God, in whom we exist, and in whom we live. And life lived for God's glory is simply a better life because the way He wants us to live is actually the better way to live. It's the world that gets us confused. Remember the good old days? How old do you have to get before you start saying that? Remember the good old days. Back when cars broke down all the time. But when they broke down, at least you could fix them. Now they break down and what? Your washer, your dryer breaks down. You can't fix it. What do? Good. Throw it away. Get a new one. Yeah. Good old days. Well, glorify God. That's what it's all about. Solomon. I can say this because we haven't got to Ecclesiastes yet. When we get to Ecclesiastes, I'll tell you again that that's all right. You'll have forgotten by the time we get there. It's Solomon's apology. Because Solomon fell away from God. There can't be any doubt. Look what he did in his life. But he finally comes back to God. So all of the book of Solomon, the whole time, Ecclesiastes, look what he says. It's vanity. It's vanity. Everything is vanity. Everything's vanity. Everything's vanity. Because he looks at all the philosophies that the world had thrown out there. He says, that's useless. It's useless. It's useless. I've tried this. It doesn't work. I've tried that. It doesn't work. He comes down to the conclusion, what? The whole thing. Fear God, keep His commandments. That's the whole duty of man. Because if we haven't done that, we've lost everything. Because we've lost eternity. Okay. Just think what a valuable lesson this could be for a young person. Young people aren't going to listen to it. It's only when we get a little bit of years and miles on us that we know that it's a little bit true that we find ourselves, yeah, that makes sense. Problems and errors avoided do not need to be regretted. They don't need to be corrected. And their effects endured later. Would you agree with that? May not be as much fun. Yeah, I got your attention there. May not be as much fun, but you know what's fun for a moment can be very, very hurtful for a lifetime and maybe even for an eternity. The better we live life as we go along, the smaller the burden we have to carry. If choices and decisions are made with these simple instructions in mind, life will be lived more effectively and nobly. And that's, I think, how God wants So, the lesson is yours. Thank you for your time and your attention. The alarm clock has not gone off, but I would anyway. You have a need, let your request be made known. So stand and sing the invitation.